My name is Clark. I am one of 3 people who can truthfully say that they have time traveled. It is not what you think it's like. I'm not really certain how they selected us, and I was working on my bachelor's degree in my state university on. I was approached by the team project to be TAOW33 is what they called it, no cool name like Project X and our project, Alpha Time Warp or something along those lines, just be TAOW33, whatever that means. They approached me and asked if I would like to take part in an experiment in exchange for my tuition being paid for. I only had a year left of school, those who's the master's going to cost me $32,000, so of course I said yes. When I asked what the experiment was and they told me that it was extremely secretive. I would be fine and not details the day off, and then I can decide to back out if I didn't want to participate. About 6 weeks went by. I was basically on call to be ready to go whenever they needed me. Finally, I got the call. I live in Atlanta and the team of the 3 of us meet up in a parking deck about 20 minutes outside of the city. Once we are there, we all got in one of those short school buses and they took us out to the northern Georgia mountains. It was about a 2-hour drive and we didn't really get much time to get to know each other. We were under strict rules not to reveal information about herself or talk to each other on the bus. Right over the last couple of miles we're on a rocky, dirt road. Who's the leading down a mountain? The bus parked in a small, maybe half-acre stretch of grass. The grass was freshly made and I could tell by sight and smell. The alcove of grass was enclosed by large trees from the surrounding forest, all right at the front of the bus. We're here inside the house. As we got off the bus one by one, we could see that in the center of the clearing was a building period. It had a very large window on one side, basically encompassing that entire wall. Every other wall was black on the outside and I could see through the windows at the inside was painted white. There was a large silver metal ring. That's around the house. It came about 3 inches off the freshly mowed grass. It was a foot wide and it had lights coming from drilled holes all the way around it. Watch your stuff and please do not step on top of this ring. The same man said, once we get inside, just go ahead and take a seat. We all stepped over the ring and made her way into the house. The house, as the man called it, was made up of only one room. Inside the refund chairs around play large circular table. The chairs, table, walls, and the one lamp are all white. The only thing that wasn't white in the room were the pair of bookshelves against each wall, both empty. After we all took our seats, the man himself. I'm glad you all decided to take part in this, to take part in history. As we told you all, this is extremely sensitive information. After my explanation of what this experiment consists of, and I'll ask you if you want to continue, understand what if we don't want to continue. A woman said about my age with fiery red hair, and then we know the super secrets information. Right, and you're just going to let us walk out of here? The give a smile. He knew that this would be asked. Yes, you were free to leave here, knowing what the experiment consists of. However, the university and I are confident of 3 things. 1. You don't want to leave. 2. The university's attorneys are rather powerful and you are already signed the NBAs. And 3. No one will believe you if you. Silence filled the realm. The redhead slouched back in her chair, a nonverbal. Well, go on that. The experiment. Dr. Olson continued to his time travel. I smiled, but I wasn't sure why. The other seemed to little bit and amusement. The attention in the room seemed to release now. Now I know what sounds. Do you know? I'm crazy. I've heard it all before. I'm not asking you to believe in me. I'm asking you to just sit in this room, observe and tell me what happens. We are not in agreement. A couple of okay, so the air and the doctor carry Donna. Alright, this is how it works. I'm going to drive up to the control center. It's about. I have a couple of cars up there as well. From there I will flip the switch. In layman's terms, the one Dr. Olson began his next sentence. A lean for it in his face, stuck at a very stern, angry father quality. Do not delete this room after I walk out. Do not leave. Do not leave until I come back down the mountain, log back inside this room and tell you that you can leave. I have done this experiment before, but it's not on humans. I know that it works, I know that it's safe, and I can promise you this is safe. I could not promise you your safety though. If you leave the house. I remember the are shifting to an uneasy feeling. Are you sure that this is safe? What did you test it out? What's it going to feel like? A scrawny blonde guy said, who couldn't have been older than 21. The doctor continued to. I know that it's safe and no animal that I've used has been affected by this stuff to dogs. No bruises, no cuts, no change in behavior. And, to be honest with all of you, I don't know what you should expect. I'm not sure if it feels like a tingle, a pinch, or anything else. This is the very first human trial, which is why you need to pay attention to any sensation that you feel. It's okay. If we are actually about to time traveling to, I ask you, will be launching 3 hours into the future. Once activated, this building will disappear. My team and I will be on standby for 3 hours, and then poof, the house is back with all of you in it at 3 hours into the future. A long silence followed her. I'm skeptical just about anything, but something about Dodge. It was hard for me to die. He was dead serious. When it was clear that there are no more questions, Dr. Ross selected his watch and stood up, and then he cleared his throat. Alrighty, then. It's 1:22 p.m. right now, so by the time I make it to the control side it should be just before 1:30. The warm-up on it takes about 2 minutes, so we'll mark your projected arrival time at 4:30. Are there any questions or concerns? No one spoke. Okay, I'll see you all in 3 hours, or, from your perspective, just a couple of minutes. The Dodger went to nod and closed the door behind him after adding safe travels. The three of us stood from our chairs as we watched the doctor drive off, and then we all turned to one another at the attention. Now, well, he sure knows how to make an entrance and an... The redhead said. No kidding. Of the blonde could answer it. Well, nice to meet you, fellow time travelers. We all chuckled a bit and then nervous sort of laughter. My name is Ryan, I'm Clark. I replied back with a handshake to follow Emma, and she said, with a smile that can make any man or woman's head turned. We exchanged pleasantries and talked about her schooling and how we were selected at. Emma was the first to ask what we were all thinking. So what's the chance of this being legit? Don't get me wrong. I would love to be the world's first time traveler, but I feel like this is just going to end in a dad, or maybe we're just getting pregnant. When he was explaining everything, I thought that it may be a prank. I'd like this may be an actual experiment from the university, but it's an experiment to see if they can convince people that they time traveled. That's meta. I quit. Oh, guys, look. And I started staring out of a large window. The ring that surrounded the building was slowly getting brighter. It looked like 100 laser pointers slowly brightening up into the overcast sky. Does this mean that we're in the 2-minute stop? I said I already know the answer, I guess, so I'm started. God, my heart is racing, Mine too, saying we all stood up perfectly still watching those skinny beams of light grinder until it was nearly blinded. I turned to look at Emma. Her pupils were closing to the size of a pencil tap. Maybe our gaze along with Ryan's was locked on the beams and I could see their faces getting more illuminated each second, the past, second after second. It just kept getting brighter, brighter, and brighter and brighter, until it was like we were being engulfed by the sun, and unless in a second, it was dark. I chose my words carefully. Less than a second. It was not like turning off, it was not like shutting your eyes, it was faster, it was instant. I saw Emma's pupils quickly grow large as the absence of light from out the window matter right now. The inside of the house was still illuminated thanks to one lamp, and the main room outside the window was not there now, not nighttime, not black and not pitch black, nothing to it. But when I cannot explain it, it gave off the light. It was the color that a blind man sees. It was the color of our sleepy nights, in between dreams. It was the color of death. It was nothing. We all kind of looked around after a minute of silence. What the fuck is happening? Emma voice, Abigail. My heart stopped beating. Ryan said bluntly. I saw Emma raise 2 fingers to her neck. I didn't have to, I could feel it. It was one of the first things that I noticed when I was staring at him. As people says, the light had reached its crescendo, my heart was racing, and as soon as the light had disappeared, so did the rhythmic thumbs up my heart. No traveling through time. I actually agree with that. Yeah, you're right, but we just need to pay attention to this so we can explain later. Okay, heartbeat stopped. Check, we're still alive, Jack, and that's that, void, the best thing. Check. We turned to the window in unison. I don't like looking at it and it's unnatural. It's, I don't know, not supposed to be. It's not black, but it has no light. I don't think she wasn't wrong. I'm kind of glad I don't have a heartbeat right now, because I think I would have a heart attack. And I joked anxious about the small space. And we finally moved from our spots where we were staring out of the window. It was a relief to move around the room, and I'm not sure why we were quiet for a couple of minutes to talk to her chest recently, checking it out, existing pulse, or looking at her hands. Riley gets the back wall staring out of the window, and I pulled up a chair next to Amazon. I enjoyed her in quiet atmosphere. Our peaceful, still was broken with Ryan's words out there, I can see things. Your mind is playing tricks on you, and you know, like when you're in a pitch black room, is your mind will make you see lights and shapes and stuff. I said no, he countered it. It's there, look out there, you can see it. I don't know how to describe it, just lost her attention once again to the emptiness. It was, I'm not sure how much time had passed before the silence. All I know is it's about like a long time, maybe an hour, maybe 2. Well, this is taking quite some time, isn't it? I'm sad, seriously, I feel like we've been in here for a couple of hours. And I responded, no, Ryan, soda, not even a second is past. Emma and I glanced at each other. What temperature in the room it was. An absence of any heat to coolness or was non-existent. After roughly 12 hours or so, we estimated, our bodies begin to not breathe automatically. We didn't need oxygen. The other realization was about that void. Ryan had been staring off into it for the entire day. Ever stay safe? For the first couple of minutes he had not moved. He did not. Sometimes he would. Most of it was gibberish. And then I decided that maybe something is in there and we can't see it, but Ryan can't, and it's driving him and saying, we decided it's best not to look at it for a long time. After weeks of being stuck in that room, and then I were growing increasingly restless. We started arguing about little things, and eventually we stopped talking out together. Sometimes I would hear her sob, I'm trying to be quiet. I spent a lot of time crying as well, and no tears could come out, though, and then I, ignoring each other, was halted one day after Ryan simply stated a lot and clear, I'm going out. It was the first time, and then I had even looked at each other in a couple of days. It was the first round and coherent words. He did not look at us when he said it, and for some reason, and neither of us were tested, maybe at a bored, I'm depression of curiosity, we did not stop him. He walked over to the glass door and he stood for a moment and never taken his eyes off of the emptiness. He spoke to us, still facing the nothing else. I'm going to learn its secrets, its power. I will become a god, and to welcome me it looked like an optical illusion, exactly where the door frame was, and as soon as he broke through that plane, his hand disappeared. All I could see was his wrist, with nothing attached. He brought his arm back inside of the room, but he did not play it. He didn't scream, he smiled. He even walked out into the void looking like a ghost walking through a wall, and then I stared at her. She ran over to me and we cried together for a while. She said 7 words to me through 6 hours. The first real sensation I've had since coming here are, I'm going to be here forever. And I spent a lot of time crying. And what else was there to do? You are stuck in a room with nothing to do with stacked chairs, and we tried to have sex. It was just another thing to do to pass the time, but with no blood pumping through our veins. Can we play all of the name games, invisible tic-tac-toe, tongue twisters, etc.? We can't exactly play, I spied, because their options for colors are either white or, avoid, asked. Sometimes he would try and sleep, to no avail. We just lie there, occasionally together, and sometimes the parts, eyes closed, with no rhythmic rise and fall over chest, no soft sound of a heartbeat, just utter silence. I didn't think that I would ever make it out. I'm not sure if the total time that I spent in there. It was hard to tell and grew more difficult as time went on. At first it was easy, you could tell a couple seconds have passed and then minutes. But especially after I left it was difficult. There was no rising sauna and there is no moon, that sky with the glittering of stars. There is no feeling tired, what time is? One of us would be a waiter in, the other would be eating at a fancy restaurant. Sometimes we would play in one person without the undress and be examined. In some scenarios she would be my wife and I would come home from a long day at work and she had dinner prepared for me. She would call the kids down and we will pretend to eat and I would tell her all about my day while sneaking table scraps to our dog. Our favorite scenario was strangers, at least that's what I call it now back. We didn't have a name for it either. I would be sitting at the table pretending I was at a bar at the club. She would walk up and grab a seat and I would give her a couple of glasses inside ice before telling the bartender that I would buy her a drink. She would try to contain her glowing, smiling to a bad or eyelashes at me, and then she would make her way across the table, across the bar, and take a chair next to mine. I would ask her name and you would slowly go from surface of a conversation into the world of getting to know each other. Deeper childhood memories, fear is aspiration, says secrets and dreams. And then eventually one of us to break character and we would laugh. We would also write plays in our head for each other and perform them. We would make scripts for TV shows and movies in the neck them out, mostly improv. Those were the good moments, the secure ones, those escapes for us three equal to the escape of regular people in the real world who were watching TV or scrolling through an app so they don't have to face the reality. That can help them, but at some point reality always sets in. Our entire world was in that room. I started to forget what my mother's face looked like. I started to forget what my face looked like one day or night or whatever. I liked to the voice, naked, homeless man screaming at them, and it's best not to look for too long, but it's okay to catch a glance in your peripherals. I started off into it, wondering about its color, its absence. I wondered where we were physically, were we somehow in another dimension? Were we being observed right now? As I stared off, I saw something I know I did. It was impossible to miss, like a brush stroke and a blank canvas. Yes, it was there. It was something that existed in that vast expanse of nothing, a tree. It was a tree, a perfectly symmetrical pine tree, almost like those abstract ink block tests used for psychiatric evaluations. It was just like that, sitting dead center in my vision. It wasn't like spotting a tree from. No, I was in there with the tree. I was merely observing it. I felt like an alien from another planet. Fitness in it. The tree didn't know that I was there and I didn't know where. It was suddenly a strong and swift, open palmer in contact with my cheek, and I heard that, the hell out of it, please my face. I looked outside for 10 seconds and 20 tops. There is no way. Days have gone by. I told her this. What she said, are you messing around for so long? I was screaming, I was shaking you, I was playing with you. I swear I'm telling the truth. I grabbed your hands consolingly. All I remember is seeing something out there and then I don't know what happened. What did you see? Her crying had subsided a little and her sadness was replaced with curiosity. I think it was a tree. A tree, yeah, well, kind of. It had a Christmas tree and all the branches fall in. The tree looks fuller. It was just like that, but constantly expanding, like an optical illusion. She looked at me as if I just told her I had cancer, and expression of sympathy tangled with fury. She let out of every breath. I was so worried that you were going to leave, like he did. I hugged her and I scratched the top of her head in an attempt to comfort her, and then she grabbed my neck and kissed me. Lately it wasn't the first time that we had guessed, and we had plenty of times before. I don't know how it started. I can't even remember our first one. It was so long ago, but every so often we would just look at each other and kiss. Was it a relationship? I was stuck there with her. What else are we going to do? We have gotten along on the outside, in the real world. If this experiments weren't, would we be together? I don't know. A lot of time passes. I'm a slap me to snap out of it. We were more quiet than usual, more thoughtful. She brought it up first, interrupted our previous conversation. So, hey, let's say that we make it out of here. The weather be in a million years or a billion or whatever. Well, you know how. You were looking out the window and days passed in a couple of seconds. What if that's the best thing to do to it'll feel like a couple of hours and then boom, we're back to reality. I had wondered about that too. What if we never snap out of it though? What if we walk out like Ryan did it? Or what if we're just stuck in here forever, hypnotized? I know, she said. I thought about that, sure, but what? But I don't know. What's the other option? Realistically, we can't keep living like this. We can't keep spending every day going through the waves of talking in silence and laughter and crying. I'm losing my mind and I know you are too high-tied in my lips together, and my silence answered her, so she can continue to. What's worse than a trillion years in this room, until you pull your hair out and slowly slip down the insanity slide or looking that freaking a business. And yeah, there's a chance we'll go off the rocker like Ryan and, if not, actually walk out of the door. But is it worth it? I think so. We had spent too much time in there. I don't know how long, but it felt like multiple lifetimes. If this ended in death, I welcome to it. I know we had to do it. It was our only option. Okay, Google will put the table with the bookshelves and everything else in front of it. It's at least one line of defense against us leaving it. Yeah, it's no guarantee, but I like the idea and we did just that. The idea that we could be out of there in a couple of hours was the only motivation that we needed. I have to do. The furniture is moved. We sat on the floor in the middle of the room, our legs were crossed and we faced each other. I'm terrified. And she said openly, I know I am too. What if we never see each other again? What if we never see anybody again? What if this isn't like it? I grabbed her hands and I told her a little closer before applying, no matter what happens. I'm grateful that I had you here with me. I couldn't have been here. This place is hell, but it would have been so much worse without you. She gave me a 9 and she smiled, and I returned the same gesture. We both have adjusted our bodies, still in a sitting position, to face the window. I looked to my right and I admired Emma's gaze out of the window, just as I did when we were transported here. I squeezed her hand. You're ready to spend eternity together? And she said with a shaky breath, almost laughing, you know it. And with that we appeared off into the nothingness. It's hard to describe what I saw. The first thing I saw on that was once again the tree. It moved and acted like it had before. After a while I couldn't see the walls of the room anymore, as if I was involved into the darkness, like I was a lone astronaut, without any planets or stars for guidance. I couldn't feel my butt against the floor anymore and his hands gripping mine. In fact, I couldn't really feel anything. It was like I was slowly losing all of my senses. That horrifying nothing. Colors slowly dissipated and the tree did as well. The best way I can. If you close your eyes and you still see some light. You see shapes and objects and other things your brain tells you to see. If you stare at a wall, a blank wall, there's almost a movement to it, a static-like sensation on the wall that you never really noticed until you focus. That's what came next, as the nothing disappeared. I could see these shapes in the darkness, things I didn't even know. I remembered from the trenches of my mind. I thought it almost, I swear. In those moments I didn't have a body, I didn't have eyes, yet I could see it. I felt like someone moved my still active brand into a jar to keep me alive. And that's what I was experiencing, that just my brain doing its thing, with no outputs or inputs. I thought too prickly and puts. I wasn't sure where. I felt it. I existed, but not in a physical sense. I thought I was dead. I hope that is not. Would be in dead is like. And then, faster than a light switch, with no sound effect and no transition of any kind of sunshine, minutes away through the overcast sky and immediately flooded the window. I was not facing the window, though I was facing I'm up, with Ryan right behind her. Both of them were looking out of the window, just as we were before. Everything went dark. My focus was on a few people, just as it was before. It did not change. Inside, before I could begin to process what was Ryan's screams louder than I thought physically possible. I jumped and I started to back away, but Emma didn't even flinch. Ryan grabbed the lat from the table, smashed it on the ground and picked up a large piece of glass and pushed it through his chest and into his heart. His hands were bleeding and his chest was discharging blood by the pines. He died within a minute. He was smiling the whole time, kept staring out of the window. I just kept trying to process my thoughts, which were abundant. Ryan stabbed and himself was the least of my concern, to be honest with you. I backed up against the wall opposite of Ryan and I slept until I hit the floor. I sat in a feet-up position and I was praying the doctor would come down the mountain. The experiment had worked kind of. The room did disappear and we reappeared exactly 3 hours into the future. Dr. Olson said that he had installed the window in case we could see lights or flashes. He did not know about the void. After Ryan's death, the university shut down the project pretty quickly, but I thought that was the last. The world will see that. Dr. Austin can only hear the events that took place from my perspective. Emma is still in a catatonic state. She hasn't spoken a word since returning. She's completely. I visited her once at the home. She lives an hour and I'm never going back. She stares off at the walls the same way Ryan started into the void. If there's a guy out there and I just pray she is still in there somehow and then plays. I hope your mind is freeze. Why am I not kind of tonic? Why did I make it out okay? Did I see the same thing Ryan saw? I'm not sure. I try not to think about it. I have lived subjectively longer than anybody will ever have to experience her, to suffer her. I don't have the guts to kill myself, though I think about it after. I don't really care if I get in trouble with the law by sharing my story. It's therapeutic to share, and like dogs and said from the beginning, no one will believe me anyway. Day-to-day life doesn't bother me that. I don't mind interacting with people. I like eating food again and I like taking a nice hot shower. I like knowing that I can die and then I will die. It's not the waking moments that disturb me, though, and it's when I sleep. My dreams are awful, and they're almost always at that place, that room. The doctor says it's every other moment. Between my dreams, and as I slip away until oblivion, so does my body, and so do my senses. My mind is still active, but I'm in compasses, add color that nothing. Every night, it haunts me. I hope to God you never see it, never realize that it's there, because when you do, it won't go away.